We have a lot to catch up on in this breaking news segment. Trump posted another video. This is how he's communicating with the American people, are edited, pre-recorded videos posted to the public where he very briefly and very vaguely in many cases explains his justification or the lack thereof. And in this one, he had to address the blood that is now on his hands. And specifically, the 3 American heroes, service members, who died because of this needless war with Iran directed by him. And if you thought that it couldn't get worse, imagine the president of the United States saying, essentially, about the death of American service members. Saying, there's probably going to be more. And that happens. I thought that it was a low we would never see again whenever after a mass shooting he said something to the effect of, but you have to move on. But here we are again, now about American heroes and patriots and military service members who died because of this needless war based on a lie of a justification. Let me play this video for you and then I'll give you the other updates that we have at this time.
Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself.
Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video.
And you can tell he's reading these words for the first time too. And there's something that I don't want to just turn this into an emotional rant, but I know that all of us in different ways feel connected to the pain here. For me and many of you, family members, friends who could be or are now being pulled into this in a service capacity and whose lives are being put at risk or are going to be put at risk because of Trump's decision here. Him taking an offensive action completely by his own choice with very little coherent explanation. And when they try to provide it, it's based on a lot of distortions, like the nuclear program is destroyed, but also it's such a threat that we have to attack. But also this isn't regime change, but it is regime change. But we don't exactly know what we'll do now that Ayatollah Khomeini is dead, which obviously not shedding a tear over that. What I'm shedding a tear over is Americans who are now dead. Children at an elementary school that we reportedly hit in joint U.S. and Israeli strikes in Iran who have been killed. And we haven't had a leader within his administration, within the federal government, who can articulate in any meaningful way what we're doing, what the plan is. We literally have American blood now. And we get a speech that he's going, oh yeah, I guess, they waged war against civilization. Kind of an interesting way to put it. Or him repeating a line that I think will live in the most disturbing infamy for decades, which is, sadly, there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is. Likely be more. That's the way it is. You remember whenever the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan? Something that many, many Americans thought that we should do. But there was so much chaos and American soldiers' lives were lost. Can you imagine if Biden had come out and said, that's the way it is? What the reaction would be from everyone, right, left, and center, justifiably so. This is sickening. It's already disturbing to see this sort of erratic military decision. without congressional approval, without any coherent plan, without international legal justification. But it adds to the pain and the fear to have a leader that you know is never going to be able to guide us through this in any logical way, reasonable way. I was trying to get to the word of in a way that calms us, any calming manner. Tim Miller responded saying, has he made a case for why more Americans need to die? As he's saying, that's the way it is. More Americans are going to have to die. And more people in general are going to have to die. But has he explained to us why that's necessary? Our family members, my family members, could be having their lives put at risk. Our friends, our loved ones. For what? Tim continues bringing freedom to Iran, re-obliterate the nuclear weapons. It's crazy how opaque the goals of this operation are. And I'll show you as I read this update from the New York Times some images of the massive strikes both in these joint US and Israeli operations, and then also Iran's retaliatory strikes that are waging total destruction and chaos across multiple countries. The United States and Israel unleashed a second day of intense airstrikes and bombing runs on Iran. So you're seeing on screen now the videos of some of these strikes hitting more than 2,000 targets as Iran launched retaliatory barrages against Israel and Persian Gulf countries. One strike killed 3 US soldiers at a base in Kuwait. That's what Trump responded with. It happens. This is how it goes, is his message, and more to come. President Trump expressed condolences for the slain American troops and predicted there will be more casualties in the coming days. Sadly, he said there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is. Likely be more. That's not the way it is. That is not the way it is. Actually, you're the one who kept repeating that's not the way it needs to be. He's the one who ran on a platform, despite all of us calling it out as bogus, of no new wars. No irresponsible, needless regime change wars, specifically in the Middle East, he would cite. And now that's exactly what we're doing. I referenced the killing of children, Sam Stein quoting this, some 170 students were inside the building attending morning classes when the missile struck. At least 108 people were killed, according to public prosecutor's office in Manab, many of them schoolgirls between 7 and 12 years old during one of the early strikes in Iran. Disturbing. Tim Miller cited also to this Atlantic piece in an interview with the New York Times, or with the Atlantic, Trump says he's planning to start talks with new Iranian regime and waffles on whether he would provide support for a populist uprising. Not super encouraging for big change of political leadership of Iran. Once again, you have that question that Tim brought up before, which is, so what is the end goal? If you're going to be telling us that unconstitutionally, it appears, I'm not a legal scholar, but given that Congress is supposed to be approving of declarations of war, but we're not technically, well, what is this then? But if you're asking us to trust, as some Trump supporters say, just trust in Trump, which he's given me no reason in his entire life to do so, but trust in Trump. And yeah, American lives will have to be lost, but it's for the right end goal. Well, what is the end goal? Because now he's saying, okay, well, yes, the supreme leader was killed, but are we saying we're going to maybe just negotiate with the regime now, or it's going to continue, going to go on longer, more people are going to die? There's no articulation of what the plan is. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard, during a 2025 hearing, said this.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
That's the Director of National Intelligence. That's a Trump administration official. I think it was March of 2025, saying we continue, based on our intelligence, to believe the nuclear program is not a threat. So that can't be the reason. You'd think in a situation like this, you would have an imminent threat. Obviously not. Even Ted Cruz has to admit, as he's saying supportive language of this operation or war, even he goes, I haven't seen any indication that the nuclear program is anywhere close to a threat.
One way or another on that, what I said is they were building nuclear weapons a year ago, and our bombing took that out. They also had an ongoing desire to rebuild them. I don't have present-day intelligence on what progress they had made towards rebuilding nuclear weapons since we bombed their facilities. I have no indication that they were anywhere close to getting nuclear weapons because our bombing was devastating. And Margaret, that's one of the reasons I urged.
So then what is this for? Is it just regime change, the very thing that Trump explicitly campaigned against? Then Tim said, 24-hour reacts. Impressive demonstration of military force, shock and awe 10 times. Russia totally shamed by comparison. But now what? 3 Americans dead, oil prices rising. To what end? Praise some regime dissidents or a corrupt globalist cleric that wants a crypto payoff, wins the internal struggle with special ops assistance? Okay. Kind of saying, is this the argument? And then once again, they'll say, this drives me crazy. You'll have defenders of this decision saying, well, are you questioning the strength of our military? Are you rooting against the might of the American military? And it's like, what kind of, argue your point, but what are these sick arguments you're rolling out? Of course, our military might is undeniable. And my absolute love for those serving in the military is a major part of what is informing this opposition as we now see soldiers dead. Not to mention, based on reports, literally children being killed. And we still don't know why in any coherent way. Here's Chris Murphy, a Democratic senator, responding.
Because we haven't even heard a clear public accounting of the state of their nuclear program. Rubio said they weren't enriching. Witkoff said something else. But I want to ask you about something in regard to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where you sit. The State Department has issued a worldwide caution alert to all Americans. They have set up a task force that they say they're going to try to figure out how to help the Americans who are trapped in the Middle East and throughout the world. But the U.S. Embassy in Israel said they're closed and they can't help evacuate. If you're an American abroad or a family member, what should you be doing right now?
Well, I think you can call your member of Congress or your senator. We will do whatever we can to help. But it's no secret that this administration has no plan for the chaos that is unfolding right now in the Middle East. Those scenes that you showed at the beginning of the program are frightening. Violence is not contained just to the Middle East. It's spilling over into Pakistan and other parts of the world. And it's no secret that our allies in the region, with the exception of the right-wing government in Israel, had begged us not to take this action because they knew that the spillover, which is now looking like regional conflict, was the likely outcome. So again, what are we getting out of this? We're not getting regime change to a democracy. We're not going to eliminate their nuclear program. We are going to have regional war breaking out. It won't be the billionaire kids of Donald Trump and his buddies that die. It's going to be the children of middle class and poor families all across this country who are going to die for a war of choice, a war of vanity, an illegal war.
Well, we are going to hope for more briefings to Congress or engagement with the press to explain some of the.
That's the other part. As of when I'm recording this, Trump's not going out and having people ask him questions as usually he does on any other subject, except for maybe the Epstein files. But instead, he's just posting these edited videos and then leaving it at that, when he should be giving the most transparency to the thinking. And then that point that Chris Murphy said of, and this has been rolling around my head and making me so angry, of when Trump is making this decision. It's not his kids, not the kids of his billionaire friends, most likely. It is all of these brave, patriotic Americans who joined up to be a part of the defense of the United States and are now, with very incoherent explanations being provided to them, being sent into harm's way and even dying. Not Trump's kids. Not many of the people I've been seeing online defending this. And then if, hey, you want something that'll really make you feel better? Here's JD Vance a little while ago. I think this was during the first strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, but it applies now, or I'm sure he thinks that it does, which is, okay, yes. We've talked about how we shouldn't be pulling ourselves into prolonged regime change wars at the expense of Americans' lives, people's lives. I don't want to forget that. In multiple countries, I just told you about children, elementary school children being killed in Iran, resources, etc. But, well, yeah, we don't want that. The reason, JD Vance argues, that happened, that it became prolonged, or that it had disastrous consequences in the past, is because we had dum-dums in power, not smarty pants like us.
I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives.
So, amid all this, the only thing that can get me to laugh is that reasoning. Oh, no need to fear. What's the specific, complex explanation as to how this is going to be different? Well, Trump's not dumb. All those other goobers were dummies. Doesn't make me feel any better, to be honest. Eric Prince was on Steve Bannon's show, a place that you would be hearing lots of pro-Trump messaging. And Bannon even tries to set up the question in a positive way towards Trump. And listen to the reaction from Eric Prince.
Eric, it seems like it's not as intense as the strike that ended the 12-day war, but spectacular results, correct? I mean, they took out the Ayatollah and his top 40 guys, having a picnic lunch in the afternoon or gathering. The intelligence was pretty special in the fact they took the Ayatollah and 40 of his top guys out, sir?
Look, Steve, it's I'm not happy about the whole thing. I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction in Iran now. Who takes over? You still have tens, hundreds of thousands of IRGC people that will be positioning to be number two, to be the next rulers of that country. I don't see how this is in keeping with the president's MAGA commitment. I'm disappointed.
Well, talk to us about that, because I've been putting up on social media. He said regime change. He made this comment the other night. The Ayatollah's gone. His 40 top guys are gone. Don't you just toss it to the Persians and say, because he keeps saying, rise up from the streets. I haven't seen.
What is this reasoning, by the way? Don't you just toss it to them? Just go ahead and just toss it. That'll be good. What's that mean logistically?
Massive demonstrations or massive people coming out in Tehran. There have been some running around shouting they're supporting it, but is the plan to decapitate? Do you think the president's accomplished that and now can just move on?
I think, and again, who comes after that? I don't know that there's a plan. These are ultimately solved by ground combat. I don't think a regime has ever been changed by air power alone. It's wishful thinking, and now it is indeed cost American lives. I don't buy the argument that it was only because of they were doing it to preempt. When you load that many troops and that many aircraft in an immediate area, you could almost guarantee a response. But again, how does the regime get changed? I don't think that Reza Pahlavi is a strong enough leader to, even though there may be some protest in Iran asking for him to come back, there's an absence of security apparatus to get him done, to get him actually in power.
I don't know where that was going, but yeah, I mean, even on programs like that, you have deep, deep skepticism. And this was a clip posted by Bannon's War Room. Now, this is kind of a irrelevant point, but it's been circulating a lot. The White House posted this image of Trump as the operation was starting, as he was launching us into a war with Iran. And he is obsessed with recreating the famous Obama image when Osama bin Laden was killed. But the point that's been made by a lot of people is, Connor Rogers, for example, says something people miss about the Obama photos that he didn't center himself in it because it wasn't staged. It was mid-actual operation. The president was watching something else or someone else. Obama is off to the side observing. In Trump's stage photos, he centers himself and looks foolish. And you can see that. The other aspect to it is, look at him. He just looks. I don't want this. I don't want this. If it were a different president, I wouldn't want this. Based on if the facts were the same. And it's happening. I definitely don't feel good seeing this guy who's in charge. Look at, this is who's supposed to guide us with a steady hand. This person is who we're supposed to trust with the lives of our brothers and sisters and children and parents. This is who we're supposed to trust. Right there. Who looks dilapidated, exhausted, and detached. Not to mention, is that a strategic board behind him? Like Adam Cochran said, maybe should have covered up the board showing U.S. asset locations and enemy location intelligence. Just so many elements to this. I know that's not as important as the other stuff that we talked about, the retaliatory strikes from Iran, causing chaos in the surrounding countries, innocent people being killed, just building escalation, carnage, and unknown. And a president telling us, let me quote this correctly, there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is. Likely be more. Without telling us why.